not that long ago, I rewatched Ocean's 11, and I think it's fine, but I don't even think that's a great movie in my opinion.
It
I know it's a
really
hot
isn't.
take. I know it's a hot
No,
take for
I
some
feel like at
people.
the
Yeah.
time it was like, "Oh, this movie is so good," and then you go back and watch and you're like, "I don't know what." Oh, maybe because I was like 15 when I watched this.
It's Hey nerds, welcome to Nerdy and Nice. Thanks for being with us. Today we have a loaded show, a lot of news stories to get into in the world of movies, TV, pop culture. We'll give our light thought. We're not a big awards show. We'll give our light thoughts on the Oscar nominations, among other things. But Lacey, how we doing?
I'm good, how are you? We've had a
I'm
crazy week, I would say, with TRB, doing a lot of
oof,
interviews and,
it's amazing.
yeah, it's been epic. Epic for TRB, and I'm rocking the new merch. I know this is nerdy and nice, but this shirt's so awesome. I decided to wear this shirt on here. I do have nerdy and nice stuff that I will wear next time, though. Promise.
Yes, and for people seeing my Galactic Goonies shirt, I hope if you didn't before Friday, you
Mhm.
grabbed one Friday because they're not there no more. But I do love our little term Galactic Goonies, and it's I feel like it can make a comeback one day. That's all I'll say. But it's time to talk about other things. We are going to talk a little Star Wars today, though.
A little
Lacey
bit.
will get, yeah, Lacey will get to that in a bit because it was huge news, and we have another episode of TRB coming up this Thursday. We're not doing live TRB. I mean, we will do them in the future, but we're going back to recorded episodes. So this Thursday, we have another interview coming with the composer, which we've talked about the Penguin on this show a lot, but the composer of Skeleton Crew as well, Mick Giacchino. So no news on that episode. So we're going to tackle the big Star Wars news that recently came out on this Nerdy and Nice episode. See, it's our little
Mhm.
life raft for Star Wars when we got other things going on with Star Wars. But Lacey, a quick run through of some stories at the top. Obviously, rest in peace, David Lynch,
Mhm.
director, Twin Peaks, the original Dune movie with Kyle MacLachlan. Mulholland Drive passed away at the age of 78. He's one of those rebellious filmmakers that you could fall in line with, the George Lucas types of the world, who didn't really buck to the trends or waver, and he sort of always rebelliously did things his own way. So rest in peace to him. Did you ever watch Twin Peaks?
I didn't, but honestly, all the stories coming out specifically about him after he's passed, have been a little shocking to me. One of the stories I saw was that, TikToker Addison Rae has a multi-deal picture deal with Netflix, multiple movies. She just did, like, the new reboot version of She's All That with He's All That or whatever, she was in it. She's a
Uh,
TikToker. I'm gonna be honest, she can't act. She like, they're paying her because she has a big social following. It's one of those decisions made by an
oh,
executive. So she has a multi-picture deal. And the article that I was reading was saying how David Lynch couldn't get funding from Netflix to do what he wanted to do project wise. And he's like this
oh,
legendary director. And yet they're giving money, multi movie deals to Addison Rae. And then Nancy Meyer can't get funding for her big epic rom com that had multiple people tied to it. Um, it's a sad thing for multiple reasons. Obviously, he's incredibly talented, and
yeah,
has made a lasting impact on the film industry.
yep,
But it's also a sign of the times when you hear stories like that you're like, this guy couldn't get his stuff funded. Like,
right,
what is going on?
yeah, and they raised their prices again. So,
I know
uh,
by $2, a
yeah,
dollar or two.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
insane. It's
Yeah,
insane.
I think I have like the $17 tier, and it's just like I remember when
Yeah.
I got it, it was like $7, and they were like, share
Hmm.
with everybody. Sharing is caring. It was their big tweet or whatever. Uh, but now you can't share as much, and you're paying
Mm-mm.
more. So
Hmm.
we'll see what happens after Stranger Things closes out. They are getting a huge boost with all the sports stuff, including WWE Raw now on there. But so
Yeah.
Netflix is still the king, but unfortunately they know it and they're making us pay for it.
I
But
mean, they
anyway,
gained 392 million subscribers in the last quarter. Like, there was no reason for them to raise prices except greed. So,
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and there's not much we
Mm,
can do about it unless
no.
people leave in droves. But
Yeah.
yeah, rest in peace, David Lynch. Next quick story: Millie Alcock, James Gunn, and DC confirmed that she is going to appear in Superman this July. But
Mhm.
she's not done there because I guess James Gunn also confirmed today, I believe, as of recording this. So last week, he confirmed that cameras are rolling on Supergirl with Millie Alcock, of course, as Supergirl. And I believe Craig Gillespie is directing that movie. So
Mhm.
DC firing on all cylinders
And they showed a picture of her sitting in the chair with her back to the camera. Yeah.
with
So, like,
the
it's
with
legit.
the Superman logo, Supergirl
Mhm.
logo. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's the same S, which is cool. And then we have the Oscar nominations came out last week.
They did.
Yeah, and like I said at the top, we're not sitting here pretending we're experts in award shows or that we're massive fans of them. I think you
Mm.
and I watch them casually for some of the craziness that happens at these award shows.
Mm.
But do you have any movies or people you're rooting for this year in particular?
Well, the first thing that stuck out to me about the Oscars is they announced this year that no one's performing original songs on at the Oscars, which
Oof.
Ryan Gosling had one of the biggest moments in pop culture last year,
That was funny, yeah.
singing "I Am Ken." So it's surprising, and that was the photo actually all these outlets used when they announced that they weren't gonna have these songs. But that was something I always looked forward to, was seeing these people perform their songs on a big stage in front of not just Hollywood, but the world at large. I mean, I remember years ago they had, smaller artists perform, like, Encanto, or I'm saying 2 Spanish movies, but, like, then Coco and stuff like that, where
I've
they
heard you like
had
Coco. Yeah.
I do like Coco. But I mean, like, even the smaller indie stuff that have these lesser known artists that write these beautiful songs, they get their moment to have, like, to
Yeah.
shine, and they're taking that away. And I know they had talked about maybe having a stunt performer category, but that clearly didn't happen this year. Um, and my initial reactions were, from what I've seen online, and I'm talking, like, clips of this movie, I have not seen it, I have no interest in seeing it. Amelia Perez, like, is getting hated on hard.
Yeah.
Hated on. People hate this movie. And it also came out this week, as we're gonna get into it in, what's happening, is that they used AI to write this movie. So, it's not going well for it, and people are very surprised because it got 13 nominations this year, which is tying Oppenheimer. And John and I were talking off air. You have, like, Titanic got 11 awards and or nominations, and then Lord of the Rings with Peter Jackson got like 11 nominations, and you're telling me this movie deserves 13? Like, what are we doing, guys? What's
What
going
wait,
on?
what aspects do they use AI for? Because I know, The Brutalist did for, like, some minor things, I guess, but,
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. There's a
yeah, we
lot of
haven't yeah,
details
you're
to
right.
that.
You're right, you're right.
Uh, multifaceted stories about AI this week was one of the big
Well,
things. But anyway, I'm looking forward to I want Demi Moore to win Best
yep.
Actress. I'm rooting for her. She gave basically an Oscar-winning speech at the Golden Globes, so I don't know how she's
Mhm.
gonna top that for the Oscars, but I hope she wins. She deserves it. I've seen clips of that movie. I see nonstop screenshots from that movie, and it just would be really cool that a horror movie won, because horror has been killing it for the past, like, 5 years. Like,
Oh,
every year,
yeah.
horror is just killing it, which we have trailers today that are horror movies. Um, I really kinda want Ariana Grande to win. Sorry, Ariana Grande Butera is the word is the her full name that she's going by now.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I want her to win. Um, I like Ariana Grande, the artist, the singer, I always have. But the story behind her getting this role is really kind of emotional ride, and she went and saw the original Broadway play with Kristen Chenoweth and, Idina Menzel. I was thinking of the John Travolta, Adele Nadim.
Adele, Nadim.
And in my head, I was like, "Don't say that, don't say that." No, Idina Menzel, and, she said that in her life, if there was ever a moment that they were gonna make a movie, like, she had to be this role, and she changed her singing styles, her looks. She has the acting chops to do it. I just hope she gets it. I hope she has her moment. She deserves it. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think other than that, I always look forward to the animated category. I know Wild Robot is nominated, which I have to see. It's on my list. I know one of the ones is Flow too that everybody's talking about, which I believe Bill Hader is tied to. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting year because I don't think there's as many standout movies and performances as previous years. It was like a weird
Mm.
year for movies. I think it's due to the strikes and other production delays of things. Um, but I mean, what do you think? Are you rooting for anybody?
Yeah, I mean, Demi Moore's been around for so long, so when you see somebody who's been around that long, I mean, she was part of the Brat Pack in the 80s, and
Right.
you know, I don't think anybody thought any of those people would go on to have serious careers, and a lot of them did.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that'd be cool. I did not see that movie. It freaks me out. I may see it. Maybe something I watch with Kathleen.
Do
Um,
you know what it's about?
yeah, like de-aging yourself with right? Something like that. Like,
Yo, it's wild.
yeah.
She is aging out of her like aerobics thing and gets this substance, this drug from like another country and births a younger version of herself out of her back. But they have to switch off. They can't both be operating at the same time, is my understanding. It's like one
Oh,
gets to live its life and then it has to
wow.
come back and like give its life essence back.
And does and she plays both versions? Is that what happens?
No, she plays the older one, and then Margaret Qualley, who's married to Jack Antonoff,
Hmm.
Taylor Swift's producer,
Of
is the
course.
younger version. Well,
Hmm.
I just know that they're married. Is
No. Um, I'm
yeah.
still, yeah, I'm rooting for Kieran Culkin. I think his story is really cool because, you know, he was in
Mm.
the shadow of his brother forever, throughout the
Mhm. Mhm.
90s, even though he was in the movie with him,
Mhm.
in Home Alones and stuff like that. But like what he did with Succession, and I think people really slept on him until that show. So you got to give, he probably has to give a lot of huge props to the creators of Succession. But he's going against his Succession co-star in Best Supporting Actor, so there's a little drama there, I think. But I'm rooting for him to win. I think you know he deserves the spotlight for once. I think that'd be
He
cool.
won the Golden Globe for it.
Yeah, and that's usually a good sign. Same with Demi Moore. But you know, Best Actor and stuff. I don't really have. I haven't seen a lot of these movies. So we'll have to see. I was surprised about Mikey Madison. I did not see Honora. But the things I've seen her in, I wasn't all that impressed with. So maybe she just figured it out for this one. I guess the my
Yeah.
last thing is everyone's freaking out that Denny Villeneuve wasn't nominated for
And
Dune 2
Challengers. Challengers was not
and
nominated for anything,
Challengers.
including soundtrack, which won for the Golden Globe.
Yeah, and that's interesting because Zendaya's in that, right?
Mhm.
And
She was
and
nominated.
oh, she was? Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That's
For the
good.
Golden Globes, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. But the Dune thing, I'm like, did the voters like fall asleep during the movie? Like everyone loves Denis Villeneuve, so I don't know. Everyone's mad about that one. I'm not the biggest Dune fan.
Challengers too,
Uh,
people are mad about because it had
yeah, and that
crazy
Challengers too.
cinematography. They
But
do this crazy shot at the end with a tennis ball where it's like the camera's following the tennis ball between the 2 guys playing tennis, and it's insane,
wow,
and the way they shot it is really cool. It was like one of those, like,
they use
really
drones or
interesting.
something?
No, they had, like it was, like, camera movements and stuff like
Wow.
that, but, and I think a little, obviously, visual effects, but it was one of those things, especially the soundtrack has been everywhere for the past year, and it won the Golden Globe, so when people were surprised, they're like, "Even that isn't on here?" So people are just
Yeah.
confused because I know an article came out this past week about how people question who's in the academy and who watches these things because every year they release this ridiculously divisive article of anonymous people in the academy and what their thoughts are,
Oh,
and it's always like, yeah, I don't have time to watch that movie, or that's too long.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
what people are saying about the Brutalist, is that it's too long and they don't want to watch
yeah.
it. And it's like,
Well,
how can you consciously vote on these things if you haven't even seen the movie? And then you have people like Kirsten Dunst where they'll be like, "Hey, have you watched all the movies?" And she goes, "That's my job to watch them." So yes, of
yeah.
course I have.
No, it's good.
Which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, Um, now, Lacey, you did at the start of our Oscar talk, you mentioned Ryan Gosling. I
I
just have this
did.
weird feeling we are going to talk a little bit more about him and pull TRB Resistance Broadcast into Nerdy and Nice. So why don't we get into what's happening?
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
Yeah, so as we said at the top, it's been a crazy week for TRB Resistance Broadcast because we've done a couple interviews and stuff, which you can't really talk about the news with your guests. You know, you want to focus on them and what they're doing. So a big story dropped this week, and we didn't want to miss out on it, and we didn't want to delay it 2 weeks. And then you guys would be like, why are you still talking about this? That was 2 weeks ago. So we're kicking off for the first time ever on Nerdy and Nice, a Star Wars story. I didn't mean to do that, but a Star Wars news story, which is this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter specifically, but it was everywhere, which is Ryan Gosling is in talks to star in Sean Levy's movie, which is an exclusive. And then they say, if the deal makes the world send the project into hyperdrive after 2 years of development, it will make the next Star Wars movie to go into production. So that's a big thing here is if Ryan Gosling signs on to the Sean Levy movie, which by the way, isn't episode 10 with Rey or whatever. Sean Levy is doing his own thing, which I have to give you props, John. You've been saying that from the beginning that Sean is not doing that stuff. He's doing his own movie, but we both agreed that he gave up Marvel Avengers to do this Star Wars movie.
Yep.
But if Ryan signs on, it is the next movie that they're making. That's wild. Yeah, they are fast tracking this movie to doing it first, which is in the scheme of things of Lucasfilm and Disney in general, they tend to go with what's hot. And Sean Levy is kind of what's hot right now with Deadpool and Wolverine. John, what are your initial thoughts? You know, I love Ryan Gosling, but what do you think?
I do too. And I think what's great about Ryan Gosling is, you know, he has that palette where, you know, he will do something very dark and noir. And we just talked about Denis Villeneuve, you know, Blade Runner 2049. But then he'll do Barbie, he'll do La La Land, and then he'll hit you with a Nice Guys. And like, that's an underrated, great performance by him. So he's very versatile. I saw, you know, any sort of criticism about this was people saying like, oh, he's, you know, he's too popular. That's like a more of a Marvel thing. I'm like, well, it's, you know, Star Wars has been casting. Yeah. They just got Jude Law in Skeleton Crew, and he was amazing. So I think when you like, it felt like when the Yankees signed like a really good player that you always liked, and it's like, we got him now. You know, he's on our team now. I was so excited. So I think that's great. I think him and Sean Levy would probably work off each other really well. I would imagine it's going to be a movie that has to have some level of humor in it because they're both very good at that. Like doing action type movies that have humor in it. Like I was saying, Nice Guys, Deadpool and Wolverine, stuff like that. So I'm excited about that. The only thing that, and you're right, they did say this is not connected to the Skywalker saga.
They did.
They even said like the so-called Skywalker saga, like we joke about, like that term came up out of nowhere. But the thing that is just like wild is like we were sitting there in London in 2023, 2 years ago now, which is nuts. And they bring out James Mangold, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, and Dave Filoni, and they're like, here's your next 3 Star Wars directors. He's doing this old Jedi movie. We got the Rey movie, and then we got Filoni's Mandoverse movie. Those are your next 3. And we're like, oh, what happened to Taika? What happened to this person? Like,
Rian
no, this
Johnson.
is it now. This is the plan. And here we are. Those 3 movies are still out there. They're still being developed. Obviously, Filoni's is going to happen since he's one of the bosses now. You don't cut your kid from the football team. But here we are listening to this saying this is going to be the next movie. So it's leapfrogging those. And this movie hasn't even been announced by Lucasfilm yet.
It has not.
Just so crazy, but in a good way. And it also means that Star Wars Celebration Japan might be bananas in terms of what we learn from there.
This
but
might
we also
be the big announcement.
We also have to understand that last celebration, that those were the big announcements, and this movie has jumped over those. So the things are always changing. We do know Mandalorian and Grogu is in the can. It's in post-production. It's coming out next year. So that's the next Star Wars movie. But it sounds like this one might roll this fall. I know Jeff Snyder had talked about that, as well as these other sources like Deadline and what have you.
It came from Boris Kitt, I think, right?
Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's exciting, but it's also a little like, what's going on with those other movies then? Is the Lando movie happening? Like, what's happening? But it just focusing on this, I mean, you get Ryan Gosling in Star Wars and you get Sean Levy, who just made $1 billion movie. It's showing that Disney's like, we got to stop screwing around. You know, we got to make Star Wars throw its weight around a little bit again, because I feel like Star Wars has been getting slapped around by public opinion, and you know, you hear about people don't want to work in Star Wars, and you know, I keep forgetting his name, Damon Lindelof, you know, on the strike lines,
Came and
you know,
left.
in more words or less, said like, yeah, I'm all good, you know.
Then you have Chris Miller and Phil Lord.
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
so
totally. Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear more about what this is, and I hope that's in Japan. And obviously, everyone else is going to get that news as well around that time. And we'll see what type of picture this is. So hopefully, he signs the contract, and we learn more about that, among other Star Wars things. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. I look forward to the official announcement from Lucasfilm and Disney, but you know, they're very secretive. So they're probably were hoping to lock this in, like you said, for April, for Celebration, for that big reveal moment where Ryan comes out on stage and they're like, "Are introducing our new celebrity." But yeah, so you brought up some great points about humor. I think he's really good comedically. We saw that in so many different projects, but especially in Barbie, is like one of his most recent ones. I'm also really hoping that whatever movie Sean Levy is doing with potentially Ryan Gosling is that there's romance. Ryan's very good at romance. He did The Notebook. He's done multiple other rom-com-y type things. And Sean Levy is not shy to doing romantic scenes either. So I hope we get a little of that back into Star Wars. We've gotten the gritty stuff. We've gotten the adventurous, family-friendly kid stuff. Like, give me some romance too. Romance is not a bad thing. That's okay. Our heroes can be in love. Like, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I do want to note, though, that in this article from The Hollywood Reporter, they do say that this development is, quote, late in the game. Because I guess the filmmaker, as in Sean Levy, has been eyeing to direct a boy band movie at Paramount with Ryan Gosling and Hugh Jackman to star.
Yeah, I'd heard we'd heard about that. Yeah,
I didn't know this. We didn't talk about this.
No, we didn't talk about it, but it's been out. Like, that has been reported.
Well, that's wild, because then I guess Sean Levy was like, "Oh yeah, I'm also doing Star Wars," and then Gosling was like, "Star Wars? What? I'm in." So that's why they're talking about it. But I think the craziest detail, away from even Ryan Gosling, is that they're going to skip light speed skipping. They're going to light speed skip over every other movie and make this one first. That is just insane to me. They also do mention that The Mandalorian and Grogu wrapped mid-December and will release in May 2026. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I hope it happens. I really do. I am one of those people that's always fighting for like lesser known people to join, like Daisy Ridley and John Boyega and stuff. But I think this is an instance that I will take Ryan Gosling. And you know what? I want a performance that's so good he could win an Oscar. Like, I want amazing. I want that level of respect in Star Wars, that people are like, "Yo, that movie was crazy good." We got it with Top Gun Maverick. It got nominated. We got it with Black Panther. Like, I don't think it's impossible for big budget franchise pop culture type movies to get nominated. We've seen it this year with Wicked. So come on, let's do it with Star Wars. Outside of visual effects and music, which it always seems to come up for that because it makes sense.
I agree with you, and I feel like he has to, like, he's not going to play a villain. Like,
No, he's gonna be the good guy.
Because when he plays a villain, it's usually like comedic, and you don't make your Star Wars villains comedic if they're the main villain, and you don't get Ryan Gosling in your movie if he's a side. Like, he's not a Hux. He's gonna be the big name on this movie. I mean, they may get other big names too, but he's gonna be a hero type. We just don't know what type. But the last person to be nominated for an acting Oscar for Star Wars was Alec Guinness for the first movie. He did not win, but we're talking about coming up on 50 years now, so maybe it is time, Lacey. Maybe it is
They
time for a Star Wars actor to get a nomination.
They tried to get Daisy Ridley. They tried to get Mark Hamill for The Last Jedi. They tried numerous times to get these people nominated. Never happened. But
The Academy hates Star Wars.
I feel like it
George
does,
Lucas sort of said, like, F you guys, in a way, so.
But I think that Ryan Gosling could be the thing that could kind of break through that barrier.
Hey,
so to speak.
that'd be pretty sick. Yeah.
But yeah, so that is a little bit of Star Wars.
And we'll talk more about that obviously on TRB once we get back into our news shows, because more is going to come out now that bubble burst. More is going to come out about what's going on there.
Someone's talking.
Oh,
we're listening.
Yeah.
So pivoting a little bit, going back to something we've talked about a couple times on the show, which was a big announcement, which was the Odyssey is happening from Christopher Nolan. It's his next big movie, has a huge budget, and they've signed on Jon Bernthal to be a part of the cast. Which is funny because we literally just talked about Jon Bernthal last week about being in Daredevil. So, John, I'm going to let you take this one and run with it because I know he's one of your favorite guys.
Yeah, I'm a big Jon Bernthal fan. Said it last week, so I don't need to repeat that. I think everyone knows by now if you listen to this podcast. But it's Christopher Nolan too, so it's going to be a quality picture. It's going to be a massive budget, a huge spectacle. The cast list is already gigantic. It has Matt Damon, Tom Holland, who are reportedly playing like father and son. You don't know who's playing which character in this mythology, but you have Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, Lupita Nyong'o, Charlize Theron, and now Jon Bernthal. Now, Bernthal's not going to be like the main guy, but when you think about what type of actor he is, he plays a tough guy often. He can be physical. So, one of those types of characters. And when you think about the Odyssey and the stories that are told within it. So I'm just excited for him because it seems like he really got a late push for his stardom, and he's starting to see the fruits of that now. And he's still doing awesome things like The Punisher's coming back, but now he gets to be in a Nolan movie. Like he's winning
awards.
Now. Yeah, he's at that point now where he's winning awards for The Bear. He won an Emmy for that. So it's like, did he win the Emmy for that? Or
he did.
Yeah, right. So it's like he's able to do all these things, and he's not pigeonholed into, that's the Punisher guy, and that's all he does is the Punisher stuff. It's like, no, he's Jon Bernthal, and he also has a pretty cool podcast too. So come on the podcast, Jon Bernthal. That'd be great. But I'm happy for him. I'm a fan of his. I'm excited about the Punisher, and now I'm excited about this because I am a Chris Nolan fan too. So I think this is a great addition to that cast for me.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I think he's great, but I don't think I'm the person that's gonna be like, yes, as a Christopher Nolan expert. So, but I do have a question that leads into our next story, which would be, are you a big Martin Scorsese fan?
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm the biggest fan, but I love a lot of his movies. Yeah.
Didn't he just win an Oscar recently? Wasn't that like one of the things?
His first Oscar after all those years was in 2007 for 2006's The Departed.
Yes.
So
that was like a big
Driver,
moment.
Goodfellas, Raging Bull, snub,
Right.
Casino snub, and then Departed comes out. People are like, "Oh, that's a really good movie." But when he won, people are like, "They just finally gave Marty his award." Like,
yeah, he should have won it for something else. That totally.
He should have had several. He's so good. Yeah.
You know what he's so good at outside of that? Making TikToks with his daughter.
Oh, is that right?
They're so good. Like she started doing TikToks of him kind of like off screen. His daughter's name is Francesca. She started doing like TikTok. Yeah, so like TikToks off screen, like like panning to him, joke moments, and then it became an even bigger thing. I think the one that kind of went viral this past year was his reaction to Ryan Gosling's performance of I Am Ken at the Oscars. She was filming him and he was just like leaning forward, engaged in it, cheering, clapping, like all about it, which is funny because of the movies he makes. You wouldn't picture him as being like, I'm in it, pink, love it.
No. Yeah.
but he was all
Absolutely
about it.
not.
He also
Yeah.
has a very good sense of humor, which is, if you haven't seen it and you don't go on TikTok, which I know TikTok has been its own thing lately, but if you ever have time and you want to look at something that is hilarious, it's any of those TikToks with his daughter. It's just like a really good time. And like she bought him a birthday cake that had like some type of TikTok screenshot on it from like
Was it a
something he did.
coconut cake?
No, but I really wish. By the way, I went back to the people that I made that joke to and mentioned this podcast and
Yeah.
said like, "Oh, I was poking fun at myself because nobody knew what this cake was." One guy in the group goes, "I know what cake that was. I knew what you're talking about." And I was like,
Oh.
"Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I just didn't say anything." I was like, "Oh, all right."
What the hell, Dave? Whatever your name is.
Anyway, back from that tangent. So the movie Devil in the White City has been revived at 20th Century with Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese eyeing reunion. So Leo DiCaprio has kind of been MIA for a while. Like he hasn't really done anything, right? Lately?
Look up that movie that came out on Netflix about like the end of the world.
Oh, right. He did the Adam McKay movie, The Don't Look Up,
2
with
years
Jennifer
ago.
Lawrence. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
and then
again, I thought that movie was dumb, and then now just based on like things that are happening in the world, I'm like, it's kind of relevant.
Yeah, and then he was in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right. You're right. Sorry, I don't think of him in that movie for some reason.
I don't
know why
either.
didn't think of him.
I didn't see it. I don't. I'm realizing I don't see enough movies, but
I really don't either.
should.
I watch a lot of TV, I think, over movies, is what I've
I have
learned doing this podcast.
I find myself rewatching movies I love more than like giving new movies a shot, and that's horrible.
No,
But
that's a thing people do. It's a comfort. Like
no,
psychologists
it
have studied
is.
it, and it's a
Yeah.
comfort because you don't want to be surprised. You don't want to be on edge. You know exactly what's going to happen. It's kind of like a high five hug type situation. So you just
Yeah.
rewatch the same things. Yeah.
But this is his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th collaboration, DiCaprio and Scorsese. So they did Gangs of New York. So this is all in the last 25 years. They worked. This is their 7th movie together. So it's Gangs of New York, The Aviator, The Departed. We just talked about. He won the Oscar for Shutter Island, The Wolf of Wall Street. I love, and Killers of the Flower Moon. So now we're adding another one to it. Scorsese's 82. DiCaprio's 50, which is hard to even think about because I remember growing up watching him on like Growing Pains, you know.
And he just won his Oscar for the first time a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, for The Revenant, which was another one where they were like, great performance, but man, all those Leo performances, and he was always like the one not getting the award. But
yeah.
so they both have their Oscars, and they're both still working together. And this movie sounds like Leo's gonna play a bad guy. It sounds
Yes.
like this is...
So it's based on a best-selling novel by the same name, The Devil in the White City, which is a nonfiction classic. Its full title is Devil in the White City: Murder, Magic, and Madness at the Fair That Changed America, which was published in 2004. So Leonardo DiCaprio would be playing a serial killer that is killing people during kind of like a big World's Columbian Expo in 1893. And he's playing Dr. H.H. Holmes, who was believed to have murdered anywhere from 27 to 200 people in the city of
Wow.
Chicago during this time period. But yes, he will be playing a very bad dude, which is surprising just when you see him as Leo DiCaprio. But then you look back at his filmography, and he's played bad guys before. It happens.
Yeah.
The Django, he played a bad guy.
A really bad guy. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this this looks interesting to me. I have seen most of their collaborations, so it's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially, who knows? Martin Scorsese could be like George Burns and live to be 100, but, maybe this is their last rodeo together. 7 films. So if this is their last one, maybe they really want to make it special. But it's interesting because like you said, like he has played villains, but it's not something he does often. So he's such a great actor, though. I feel like he can do anything. He's one of the best actors out there. So, and Scorsese at 82 still having that passion. When we think about one of the other stories we're about to talk to in a few talk about in a few topics here, that's really cool because this guy still has the passion to do it, and
Mhm.
I'm half his age, and I had to take a nap earlier, so the fact that he has that passion, that drive, and he's doing TikToks with his daughter and stuff. I really respect the hell out of that. Martin Scorsese is just one of those people you're going to be able to say like, yeah, I was around when that guy was around.
You gotta go watch them. They're so funny. They're like old man funny, you know what I mean? Like dad humor, old man
I would
humor.
I feel like I have to watch all of his movies that I haven't watched yet first before I watch Martin Scorsese on TikTok. But
Well, it doesn't you could laugh at him and not,
no,
belittle
I know,
his
I know,
film career
yeah,
because he's not doing it against his will. He's doing it to have fun with his
that we
daughter,
know
which is
of.
very wholesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty straightforward. I'm interested because it is kind of a serial killer, true crime type thing, which is interesting.
yep.
Um, I wasn't sure when it was, and then when I read the article, I was like, "Oh, this is like 1893." Like we're talking like back in the day where they aren't tracking anything.
He's gonna be shooting people with muskets.
Yeah, we'll see I'm sure it's stabbing, if we're being
Yeah, he's
honest.
stabbing people probably.
Like Jack the Ripper type stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was tempted to go look up the actual story because it's nonfiction.
I don't want to.
But I was like, I don't want to ruin it though. I'm like that
Yeah.
person always ruins it for myself, and
Mm.
so I didn't. I'm really proud of myself.
Yeah.
Anyway,
There are going to be a lot of people who pretend they know that story though.
I'm sure there will. I have no. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I'm sure there are some podcasts about the story, or will be. There will be eventually.
We're like, I don't know.
One story that is coming up now, which a lot of people know about in the sense of the franchise itself, is the director of Deadpool 2, David Leitch. Is that how you say it? Leitch
Yes.
is set to direct Ocean's 14. Yeah, so they're trying to bring back the original cast. I'm going to tell you my first reaction. Like, happy for this guy. Way to go, man. David, enjoy. Do a great job. I'm sure you will. I love Deadpool 2. Do we need another Ocean's movie? Like, is that a thing we need? That's my first reaction. Is they're like, they're bringing back the cast. And I'm like, do we need it though? What movies are saying shot down, or they're saying no to say yes to this?
Bad Wolves 2.
Did you watch that? Because you said you were going to.
Again, was that on Amazon? I gotta watch that one.
I think it was on Apple.
Oh, I don't have Apple. That's what's screwing me. If that's the case,
I think it was on Apple.
But
I want to watch Severance.
I want to watch that too.
Everybody's talking about that show, and I just don't have Apple.
The funniest thing about the Ocean's movies is they're having to add new characters into the plot just for the sake of sequel numbering.
Oh, yeah, because it's like 11, 13, 12.
Yeah. So 12, they're like, well, we got to add this person into the gang, and then no, we got to add. And then they did Ocean's 8, which was like a side thing with all the women.
It was terrible.
But she's supposed to be related to Danny Ocean or something.
It was terrible. It was Danny's sister?
Yeah, I think Sandra Bullock was like his sister or something.
His sister.
Which
I love Sandra Bullock, and I want to see her succeed in everything.
I do too.
She's the best. And she was great in that movie, but the movie overall was Mindy Kaling was terrible.
That's the only one I didn't
Hathaway
see.
was good. Anne Hathaway was good, but like they had Rihanna as like the techie person in the van that was like, you need to go here, do this. I'm hacking.
Rihanna was the tech person?
Rihanna, the singer.
Yeah.
But terrible.
Wow. I not that long ago I rewatched Ocean's 11, and I think it's fine, but I don't even think that's a great movie in my opinion.
It really
that's a hot
isn't.
take. I know it's a hot take for
I
some
feel like at
people.
the time it was like, oh, this movie is so good. And then you go back and watch and you're like, I don't know what. Oh, maybe because I was like 15 when I watched this.
It's very 2001. Like it's like just so like Soderbergh, like
a lot of like like bar swipe, like sliding bars,
frosted
transitions.
tips on your hair, Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
but,
sunglasses, very yellow in color, like very yellow graded. Yeah,
like jazzy music.
They tried to do this like mid-century modern type thing with it.
Yeah, they were like, how do we
But it
remake
looked
this?
dated.
How do we remake this Rat Pack movie and modernize it? It's like, yeah, you modernize it, but to like a really weird year in our time.
It definitely looks 2000s. Like it
Yeah.
screams 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like his leather jackets with the point
Yes.
collars. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, I'm sure I'll catch it eventually, but I there's zero chance I'm going to a movie theater to watch Ocean's 14. I apologize, but that's just the truth for me.
Well, I won't be seeing it either, but I'm scared about this next story, which is
No.
we brought this up, I believe last week or the week before, which that Robert Eggers, who's the director of Nosferatu, was maybe doing the Labyrinth sequel. I was like, okay, I could see it. Interesting. I haven't seen the movie Nosferatu. Again, I've seen tons of clips online. I've read reviews of it. I've gotten firsthand accounts of it from people that are very into horror, and the response was they don't like him. And that his movies look beautiful, but they make no sense. And the story's not there, and it just didn't hit. But then at the same time, when you go online, it's very yes or no. Like people either love Nosferatu or hate it.
That's like horror in general, though, I feel like.
Yes and no. I feel like a lot of people lately, like Substance was one that everybody loves. Everybody loved that movie.
That's more, is that horror or more like?
It's horror. It's gory horror. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was way off on what I thought that movie was. All right.
Like it got so gory that they like wanted that like the ending to be different, and the director was basically like, no, we either do it this way or we don't do it. And so they said, okay, fine. And now it's winning all these awards and stuff. And she was like, see, told you. Which reminds me, a woman was nominated for Best Director, and I haven't heard anybody celebrating that for Substance, which I feel like for years people have been like, oh, there's no women in directing. And then this year there seems to be one. And then nobody's been saying anything. Anyway, back to Robert Eggers. He is now officially, from Variety, has signed on to do the Labyrinth sequel. So a little background on the sequel. He is writing the project with his writing partner, Sijan. I don't know how you say the name, Sijan, while Chris Columbus and Eleanor Columbus are producing alongside Lisa Henson. Brian Henson is executive producing. So I am happy that the Hensons are involved. I trust Chris Columbus. I feel like we were just talking about him too. Like he's childhood summed up. That is my childhood, actually. Chris Columbus and the Hensons are like, that's what I grew up on. Yeah. So originally the sequel was set to be directed by Scott Derrickson, who's from Doctor Strange and a couple other things, but best known for Doctor Strange. And then when asked about it, Derrickson had admitted that it was, quote, a tough nut to crack, and then eventually left the whole project. So it's interesting that Robert Eggers is taking this on, but he must be very inspired by the Labyrinth movie, which is the original one was directed by Jim Henson. It also had George Lucas producing it. It had a bunch of Muppets. It was just, but it bombed at the box office. But I love it. So it's going to be it had David Bowie, yes. And it's going to be definitely our first watch along, which if you want to watch it with us, patreon.com/TRB podcast.
And that's because I've never watched it.
You've never seen it, which is bananas, because they have this big book fair where I live, near where I live, where I grew up. And the way I found Labyrinth is they have this movie section, and the movie was in some other type of sleeve, and it just said Labyrinth on the like end of the VHS tape. And I said, this looks interesting, like 8-year-old me, which is exactly how I found Star Wars, by the way. And I begged my mom to buy this like $2 tape, and then I fell in love with it. That's literally how it happened. So
that's all it takes.
I'm interested to see where this goes. I also did want to mention, also confirmed this past week, is that Eggers, whose Nosferatu has scored 4 Oscar nominations and is doing extremely well at the box office. Has also planned to re-team up with Focus Features for Werewolf, spelt WERWULF, a werewolf horror movie set in 13th century that's being released in December 2026. He's also interested in doing a Western / medieval project called The Night. And I actually want to hear what you think about this. He released a quote in the past week saying he'd never do a modern movie because he refuses to film a car or a cell phone in his movies.
Yeah, that is interesting because I always thought if I ever made a movie, I would want to make it in the non-cell phone era.
Mm-hmm.
But
he said he refuses to do a movie with a car or a cell phone.
So he's basically doing 1900 and earlier. That's what we're gonna get from him.
Labyrinth is from the 80s. Labyrinth is like you're talking like 86. So,
no, but it's not in our world.
It's not. You're definitely right, but I'm saying he's not going to do the sequel happening today because you'd probably see cars and cell phones and stuff.
Yeah.
You'd probably do it in like the 90s where there's no cell phones.
Oh, so I don't want to know too much about it, but does Labyrinth take place like in present time, so to speak? You know what I mean?
The movie starts in present time, 80s.
Oh, okay.
Because that's when the movie came out. And then she travels somewhere.
Oh, Jennifer Connelly?
Yes.
They'll get her back probably.
She'll probably be the mom to a kid that then takes the trip or something.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Producers like when Chris Columbus, we were talking about how he's gonna write the new Gremlins, and it's like he's writing it. It's like, okay, but when it's the person who was originally around is producing it, sometimes I feel like that's the studio paying them to put their brand on it as this stamp of approval so fans think it's going to be like the original. I hate to say that.
So you don't think the Hensons are involved as much as...
Well,
because Robert Eggers is not going to have the knowledge of Muppets and puppetry and Creature Shop.
Yeah, but it's like with the last Indiana Jones, how it said like executive produced by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. I doubt George Lucas cared or even got involved at all in the creation.
I wonder if he
of that
liked
movie.
it.
Who knows? But he may have had an idea of like, oh, I think Indy should actually fall here, and that'd be funny. Just like with Solo with the coat hanger. He directed that scene, and I'm not trying to be like cast doubt on this or anything because I haven't even seen the first Labyrinth, but
I can't wait to watch that with you. It is a trip.
I think the David Bowie thing too. Like, how do you, if he, David Bowie is in this movie, how I know David Bowie as just this massive, steal the room entertainer. I don't know
he
how
steals
they
it in this too.
how do they replace him?
They could make it like, he shapeshifts or he becomes a different character, or some people were suggesting online using AI or digital stuff like they've done for other Harrison Ford or Star Wars or whatever, like basically digital, get someone that looks somewhat like David Bowie. And I was like, I hate that. Just give me someone different. Go somewhere else in that world. Like, don't touch a role that's so iconic, that's so like such a force in the first original that person's no longer with us. It would be a disservice to then be like, yeah, let me play David Bowie. It would be weird.
Well, our listeners are gonna get to on Patreon are gonna get to watch me watch it for the first time, and I hope I like
can't
it.
wait.
Imagine
it's
I don't
one of
like
my favorite movies. It's I don't know. I'm like, if you were to have me guess if you're gonna like it or not, I have no idea how you're gonna react. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, but I think you have to have a particular taste for it. If you like Muppets, if you like whimsical stuff,
Muppets.
fantastical stuff, music, there's songs in it. Like, if you like that stuff, you're gonna love it. If you love creature stuff, you're gonna love it. If you I guess my whole thing is if you, and this is, I'm not saying you as in you, John, I'm saying you as in the general you. If you feel like animation is kind of beneath you in your tastes, or like kids' movies are beneath you, you're not going to like it because it's a child's movie.
Hmm.
It's like a family movie.
And Robert Eggers is going to make it like this goth horror.
I hope not,
No,
because
I'm done.
someone posted the final scene of Nosferatu on Twitter, and I came across it, and it's one of those things that you're like watching, and you're like, what is that? What am I watching? Oh my God. Oh, he's okay. All right.
Oh.
Sure. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you're hearing stories where Nicholas Hoult was gifted the prosthetic rotting penis from Nosferatu as like a thanks for doing this movie. And he was like all proud with it, and it was like all over social media. Yeah, it kind of sets the tone that you're like, oh, they went for it.
Jeez. So,
Which is funny because Nosferatu is like a rotting corpse vampire. Like there's no around, like it's Bill Skarsgård. He's like so creepily like mustache, weird haired, like just rotting corpse. And people are like, yeah, I'd hit that. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? What are we doing? Let's draw some lines here. But anyway.
So you're trying to tell me somewhere in his house, Lex Luthor has a rotting penis?
A prosthetic version of it, yeah.
Well,
look it up. You could Google it right now.
Actual
Google
rotting penis in his house.
No. Google Nicholas Hoult cast gift Nosferatu. It comes up.
I'm gonna start Googling rotting penis.
No, just Nicholas Hoult Nosferatu gift, and it will come up. It was like his cat.
Rotting
Nosferatu.
penis. There it is.
Yeah. So it just sets the tone of like what to expect from that movie. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, gnarly stuff. And then there's, by the way, I hope nobody's listening that's like, way to spoil it, Lacey. Like, don't listen, fast forward. There's also scenes of children that I saw on Twitter. Yeah, so not my thing. Really despise it. And I don't know how you go from that, where kids are dying, to Labyrinth, but we'll see. I am open-minded only because Chris Columbus
do different things. Yeah.
Chris Columbus and Jim Henson's team, Brian Henson, etc., are involved. I'm optimistic. Anyway, what I'm not optimistic about is this next story, which has been really hot on the internet this past week, all about AI, ChatGPT. Some of these Oscar-nominated movies like The Brutalist and Amelia Perez came out that they used AI. They used AI to do a little bit of Adrian Brody's Hungarian accent, maybe fill in the background stuff. They used ChatGPT apparently, or some type of AI, to write Amelia Perez. And then Paul Schrader, who is the writer of Taxi Driver, probably one of the best movies of all time, wrote a Facebook post saying that he's stunned about how good ChatGPT is. And he said, quote, "Every idea ChatGPT came up with in a few seconds was good, and original, and fleshed out. Why should writers sit around for months searching for a good idea when AI can provide one in seconds?" Wild stuff. John, as someone that is very, I would say, passionate about writing, it's in your background, it's what you went to school for years and years ago. What are your thoughts on people using ChatGPT to create movies and television and, the arts?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, so Paul Schrader, it's so funny because we were just talking about Scorsese and how he's 82. Paul Schrader is 78. And it's like, he seems to be going in the other direction where he's like, I'm old, I don't give a shit. He's like, I'm just going to do this. Like, he's lost. He has to have lost the passion of creating. And it's so crazy because you just mentioned Taxi Driver, directed by Martin Scorsese. He also wrote Raging Bull, directed by Martin Scorsese. And then we have Martin Scorsese, who is like still full on creating these pictures at 82, and
Mhm.
it's juxtaposed against his former legendary screenwriter saying like, yeah, ChatGPT, we don't need me. We don't need these people anymore. Like,
Well, they don't need you to come up with the idea. He's not
right.
saying not to write it or flesh it out. He's
I
saying
understand, but it's
come up with the
still
idea, but
ugly.
what's the point of having a robot come up with the idea? Like, at least the idea should start with you.
And let's not forget that AI is just data farming an algorithm from things that we as humans created. So,
Copyrighted materials too, from what they've said.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
ugly. I don't like it at all. I am very against all of that. You know,
Mhm.
if you want to use it for you know, a slogan or something, but when it comes to like the arts, and I know everyone says, well, everything's art. It's like, okay, cool, pal. I'm never hanging out with you. But um when you talk about movies and TV and stuff that people really like are struggling to get jobs doing as it is, and then you're
Right.
just gonna go out there because you already cashed your checks and you had your moments at 78, and you're gonna say like, oh yeah, I did the movie First Reformed not that long ago. It had high praise and stuff, and then you're gonna sit there and say like, just openly, it's like, why is everybody saying the quiet part loud now? Like, why is Elon Musk doing a Zig Heil? And everyone's like, oh, he's waving to people. And like this guy's be like, just shut your mouth. If you're going to do it and be a dirtbag, then do it. But the fact that he's so comfortable going out there and saying that when there's been writer strikes, union issues, struggling people that we talk to all the time, like Stephen Ford, who's like just trying to like make his passions happen. And then he's got to read this shit. It's so crazy to me. And I'm against all of it. And someone's going to be a contrarian and say like, well, it actually can help them think more creatively. It's like, shut up. No, it doesn't. Like, there's nothing more human than using your imagination to invent something that never existed. Like, you could think of something right now that has never existed before, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich building a house.
Mhm.
No one's ever thought of that before. I just thought of it. AI, is that going to think of it? Probably not, because it hasn't been done before and it's not farming all this stuff to make it sound like the thing it thinks people want to watch. So it's ugly. I don't like it. I'm sorry to rant, but that's all I got.
Yeah, I have my thoughts on AI are I don't like how it's taking and learning off of copyrighted materials. Like the the AI systems like Midjourney and stuff that are taking people's art, feeding it into a system, and then they're like, make me a poster of this movie using this type of style. Like that is totally inappropriate and uncalled for. Um, as for using AI to like help you schedule meetings or like do like day-to-day tasks, like calculate this year-over-year growth for me, like that's
Well, yeah,
fine. It
what was
doesn't
that
bother
quote
me.
someone said? Not to interrupt you. They're like, I forget, it's been going around, but it's like, I
Yeah, I
want
saw it. It's like I wanted to do my
my
laundry and dirty
dishes,
dishes. I don't
not
want it
write a
to
song.
like create movies. I
Yeah.
think that the problem and I don't want to get too deep with this, but a problem that
No, I
we've run
mean, I
into
know.
as a society is that with the rise of influencers, creators, and AI, there's been a real kind of blur slash loss of the skill of being creative. Like people that are very talented and creative, like Christopher Ford, who we just spoke to on TRB,
Mm-hmm.
that's a skill set. That's something you're born with. That's who you are.
And it
And the
takes a lot of
problem
work.
it takes work to hone it. It takes time. It takes effort. And that goes for anything. That goes for script writing, photography, painting, all these things. And the problems that I'm seeing online in reaction to AI and the instances I've seen that have created such, I would guess, animosity. And this is coming from me, who is someone that's always been somewhat creative, or like my little
Sure.
sister, who's an artist, is that you have people that have no skill and are trying to cut corners and skip steps to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying, oh, I can do that. I'll just put it into this machine and it'll do it for me. And you lose the process. The part of the process of making that art is what makes it so valuable, is what makes it better in the long run, because you suffered for your art or you took
Right.
time to hone it. What are you honing when you're typing in Paul Schrader movie, write me a script? Like, you're not getting anything out of it. And like, what kind of art is that anyway? People call it all the time AI slop. That's literally what it is. It's not someone, I believe, I want to give him credit. I believe it was Eckert's Ladder, posted a screenshot of Google and had typed in like Yoda,
Oh, I saw that.
and it was like all these AI images of Yoda that people had created. And he's like, I can't even get a real photo of Yoda anymore because all of this AI slop.
They're gonna need to start doing labeling, because I hate the fact that sometimes I see an image and I'm like, I need to. Is there an extra thumb on their
It's
hand?
gonna
Like,
get it's gonna get even crazier because this past
oh
week
yes,
they launched a newer service that took a scene from Severance with Adam Scott in it and replaced him
I
frame
saw
for
that.
frame with Keanu Reeves, and
Mm.
it looks pretty darn good.
Well, that's the
Like,
deep
and I'm
fake.
not saying good, I'm saying it looks realistic, and I can't help but think, seeing things like that I'm like, this could cause so many problems. You know, there's so much disinformation and misinformation of like what is real. And it's
It's
just crazy. So
so
that's my
they.
thought on it, is like you lose the human aspect when you get into these AI situations that I'm going to write the script, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I understand using these tools to maybe hone something like, hey, I'm stuck between these two scenarios. What's more realistic or something like that? I can't see someone going, write me a script, write me
There
this, write me that.
and there are exceptions, and I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, but the first thing
Yeah,
that came to mind was Obi-Wan Kenobi, when James Earl Jones signed off and gave their blessing to use his voice through Respeaker.
sure.
And he said in more or less words like, I can't do that voice anymore.
Hmm.
And you could tell if you go back and watch Rogue One, Vader sounds older.
He's
And
straining a little bit.
I'm glad that it was him. I don't want it replaced there. But when he said, I can't do this anymore, but I want you guys, like, you guys want my voice, I give you my blessing. That to me is a little different.
Hmm.
Um,
I
but
think Anthony Daniels did the same thing.
oh yeah, well, yeah, he was on they had him on like a Waze app giving directions with his voice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I used it. um, but I think what could be dangerous is, and I think this might happen, and I'm just using an actor as an example, like if Paul Newman was still alive and he was around now and he was like, I'm gonna uh sign away my likeness and my voice, and all proceeds will go to my estate and my family, but you can put Paul Newman in a movie, and like it's not going to be in 2 years or 3 years, but how fast this thing is moving, it could be in 10 years where they are literally putting out a movie with a dead actor, but they're back in their prime and they're just a character in the movie.
Fast
And
and the Furious 21.
that can be a very real possibility that people are going to laugh at me saying that now, but that's what scares me the most about this stuff, is how fast it evolves. Everyone's always joking about, oh wow, that AI looks like crap. I'm like, dude, the first car had to be cranked. You had to get out of your car and crank it. Like, things evolve fast. The TV was invented for mainstream usage 70 years ago. The TV. And now we're talking about like people want to put chips in our brain to do things.
Well, not
So
only
it's
that,
just
we're
like,
walking around with a TV in our pocket.
yeah, so it's going to
Yeah.
move fast, and you're right, Lacey, it's going to become indistinguishable, and something has to be regulated to the point where when I go to a movie, I need to see something before that movie saying like, there's a symbol saying like there was no artificial intelligence used to create this script or something. Like, they're going to have to distinguish that stuff. I think that's going to be the next big argument for
Well,
the
they already
unions.
are.
So
They already
yeah.
are. I think the infamous one lately was Secret Wars, the TV show that came out with
Secret
Nick
Wars?
Fury. The Secret Wars or Secret Invasion. What was the one that just came out where there's like scrolls in it? It was Nick Fury. It was a TV show on Disney Plus. They used AI to create all the intros, and people were livid. They were like, you couldn't hire a visual effects team or an artist to do these intros.
Oh yeah. I mean, Secret Wars is the Avengers movie that's coming, so
No,
it's got to
it's
be
not. It
something
wasn't
else.
Secret Wars. It was like Secret Invasion or
Oh yes.
something like that. Anyway, but they're already using AI to do these things. They're using AI to make, and then Netflix got into a lot of trouble because they were doing true crime documentaries where they had AI created images of like the person killed or the killer that they'd put on screen that wasn't an actual like the victim being like, yeah, and like a photo, but like that person didn't take that photo. They just made an AI photo of her. Yeah. But anyway,
Secret Invasion. You were right.
Secret Invasion. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. We can talk about it forever, but
You
I
could
think
say it's hell sometimes with the AI.
what?
I said it's kind of like hell with all this AI
What do you mean? Why'd you wink?
because the trailers that are coming up.
Oh my god. All right, let's get into trailer time.
Oh god, I love that movie.
You like that segue? That was really
That
that
was
was slick.
honestly one of the greatest.
Slick.
Slick as hell. All right, 2 trailers this week. Hell of a Summer. There's your segue. And Drop. And Lacey, you're right. Horror is, I'm not saying it's back. It's always been here, but
More popular.
It seems to be more popular because it's low budget and they make money.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 2 here. The directing debut of Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things and other things.
That's what caught me off guard when I watched this. I was like, wait, what?
Written and directed by Finn Wolfhard and Billy Brick. It is clearly it's set in modern times, but a throwback. Feels like it's like Friday the 13th style. It's a mystery killer at this camp. It looks fun. I know it didn't get great reviews on its initial release at Toronto Film Festival, I think. I don't think it has like great critic reviews, but these types of movies really shouldn't, you know? If it's, I'll say this, the trailer entertained me and I'm intrigued and I love whodunits and I'm done with Scream because they killed that franchise and I got to find something else for my slasher whodunits. This looks like it could be up my alley. I like Finn Wolfhard. He seems like a good kid. Seems like he's, down to earth. And it seems funny. So it has that sort of combo.
It's campy.
The only thing that will sell it is if the dialogue is smart and funny. And Finn Wolfhard's writing it with Billy Brick. I don't know too much of things that they've written, so we'll see. Will I see it in theaters? I don't know. I will be in Japan, so I don't know that we're going to the theater to see this in Japan. But I'm definitely going to see this movie, though. I will absolutely see this, depending on when. What did you think of the trailer for Hell of a Summer?
The way I saw it was like, oh, this kid got money because he's in Stranger Things, and they were like, the kid from Stranger Things is making a horror movie. We got to back this. And the trailer to me read very much like all the best parts of this movie are in this trailer.
Oh, really? All right.
That's it. It had moments that like I chuckled a couple times, and I was like, oh, heh. Where the guy's like, the phone is cut, and he's like, I've always wanted to say that, like that kind of stuff. But that said, I'm just happy that young and up and coming filmmakers are making things.
Yeah.
Like we were just talking about the guys before, 70, 80, et cetera, et cetera. Like,
Which
hey,
there's
this
nothing wrong
might,
with that.
no, there isn't, but this might not be the best movie ever. And I'm not a big horror person, but am I pumped that these people are getting a little bit of spotlight, being young and doing their first big project? Go for it. Do it. Do it up.
Until we find out they did it with AI.
Yeah, I don't think so. Though. This seems like a very much like we have 2 days to shoot this. Like,
Stranger things have happened, Lacey.
Oh, wah, wah. Let's just drop it, okay?
Okay, not bad. All right, so the next one is called Drop, starring Megan Fahey and Brandon Sklenar. Popular from not being part of the drama in It Ends With Us, I guess.
Sitting awkwardly in interviews.
Yeah, and also like I wonder if has anyone like tried to ask him about it since in the promotion of this movie. Like his PR team's probably be like, if you better not ask him about It Ends With Us. If he
I
has,
think he
if
was
you
one of
have,
the people that unfollowed Justin.
huh?
I think he was one of the people that unfollowed Justin.
Yeah, and we talked about that whole thing. That's I think that's gonna play out and be ugly for everybody. But
Messy.
yeah, but drop Lacey. This has familiarity in terms of the type of movie it is. What'd you think of the trailer for this one? It comes out in theaters April 11th.
So the premise is that a woman goes on a date for the first time, probably because her husband died or divorced or something. And during the dinner gets a airdrop, but they can't say airdrop because that's owned by Apple. So she gets an airdrop of a bunch of memes and photos and all this other stuff being like, you need to kill the person that you're on the date with, which you said it perfectly. It's very Carry On with what's his name?
Taron Egerton and
Taron
Jason
Egerton
Bateman.
and Sophia Carson.
Yep.
Which I loved that movie. I thought it was great.
That was a lot of
really,
fun. Yeah.
really enjoyed that movie. I would love to see a second one. I loved it.
Yeah.
This felt like that. It felt like, and especially because that movie's doing so well. They said it's like in the top 3 of Netflix movies ever.
It's a really
that
fun movie.
It had a lot of slow burn during the Christmas season that like people got really into it. And then as people like us were talking about it online, saying how good it is, like word of mouth thing. That's what does best on Netflix is word of mouth, word of mouth. What are people talking about? This just feels late. Like this concept has been done. I will give it credit though. The trailer, I loved how they used the vibration sound of the phone notifications. It's like a very specific sound if you have an
That
iPhone.
annoyed me.
I loved it. The way they cut in between those things because it just shows like the impact of like she keeps getting messages. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the way they did that. It was very clever. It just reminds me of like how I've always wanted to cut trailers. Like in The Holiday when Cameron Diaz is like her job is cutting trailers. I was like, this girl's living my life. Cutting trailers, big mansion, gets to be with Jude Law. The best. Anyway. This movie's fine. I'm not going to see it in movies. If it was on Netflix or something, speaking of Netflix, I'd probably watch it. But other than that, I'm not going to go to the theater to see it, which I feel bad because we keep saying that on this podcast. But when you have 2 little kids, especially under 3, it's hard to get to a movie theater. But you can get to your couch at 10 p.m. at night on a Thursday.
No, we have to be selective. We both do.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, is the last movie I saw in theaters Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah. We both.
I mean,
that was
I haven't been to the movie since. I don't think.
Nope.
So, yeah.
And before that, it was Top Gun for me.
I've definitely gone before then, but yeah.
Because you went with
Anyway.
No, you went Phantom Menace and you saw Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah, I think I went to Return of the Jedi by myself.
You did because I was like, doing my job.
Oh yeah,
But
you didn't want to go. That's right.
no, that's not it. I was working.
All right. So I did it while you took a sip of water, so you couldn't say anything.
I know. I'm taking a sip of water, and he goes, "You were like."
I did a wink, so only the video viewers would know. But no, I know you couldn't go. Yeah, I am actually not feeling this one. I got to see more from this Brandon Sklenar guy. I feel like he was a little wooden in It Ends With Us.
I don't really like the actress either. Like, I'm not. I feel like if they got someone with some type of name power, I'd be more interested.
Yeah, this feels like if this movie was made 10 years ago, it would have been like Rachel McAdams.
Yes. Yes.
Like
that is
movie
a
she did-
great. Yes.
Like
Red
that
Eye.
movie she did with that movie she did. Yes, exactly. Cillian Murphy. They're really good. Yeah. But yeah, and nothing against her or anything. But it's just I know that he's got to be involved in some way, and it's just like I don't know. I don't care. I don't know. Something about this trailer, just it just didn't do it for me. I don't know. I imagine people are gonna have some fun with it, but this is gonna be one of those movies that hinges so heavily upon how it ends that people could enjoy that whole movie and then be like, oh god, it's a rotting penis, oh no.
Which reminds me, I saw so many posts this past week with the Oscar nominations that people were saying M. Night Shyamalan's daughter got totally snubbed from her her acting in
Oh,
Trap, where she's
yeah.
like, your husband, he's the butcher. So awkward. Oh, it must be nice when your dad's M. Night Shyamalan. I'm gonna make you a pop star in this next movie, a pop star, and you're the person that catches him, the
I
serial
have a,
killer.
yeah, well, I just had a great idea for a movie, but it would never get greenlit, and people would think I'm a weirdo.
Okay.
It's called nepotism, and actors who are
You're so dumb.
struggling actors who can't get work just start killing nepo babies. Jobs in Hollywood.
Oh, jeez. The problem is like, look, you could be a nepo baby all you want, like Jack Quaid, but if you're good, that makes a difference. If you're bad, then it's hard to
I'm
argue for
obviously
it.
kidding. There are,
Yeah.
I mean, there are amazing actors and musicians who have had famous parents, and it's just that's okay. You know,
Mhm.
if you don't have the talent, like you're saying, you can get punted pretty quickly, even if you have a famous parent. Like, you know,
And
I
AI
haven't
can't save you.
I haven't seen Colin Hanks leading any rom-coms
Oh my
since Orange County.
God. Orange County wasn't that good.
It was fun, but you know, so you do need to be good. You do need to hustle, and even some of them have to do it the same way everyone else does. So I was just making a joke. Hopefully people understand that. But that's it. That's it for the show. We're not doing what you're watching, obviously football playoffs and stuff like that. But we'll catch you guys up. Hopefully we watch more stuff. We've been so busy with life and the podcast, and I know we keep saying that, but hopefully we have some more time next week to watch some stuff and tell you about what we're watching. But that's it. So thank you to everybody for listening or watching and getting nerdy with us. Mondays are for the nerds, and it's because you are here with us. So thank you for checking us out, getting nerdy with us. We want to know what your thoughts are. You know, we had some takes on a lot of these stories, some fun, some serious, and
Some
spread the word.
rotting.
Some rotting. Yep. That's for sure. But yeah, spread the word. If you like Nerdy and Nice, tell your friends about it, coworkers, whatever, because we talk about all the stuff that we all like, right? So let's expand the party. And then don't forget the Resistance broadcast this Thursday will be our interview with Mick Giacchino, the composer for Skeleton Crew, and also, of course, the award-winning hit series The Penguin. His star is rising, and he's an example of one of those people. Yeah, his dad's Michael Giacchino, but holy cow, is this
So talented.
dude talented. Yeah.
So nice, so
yeah.
kind, so genuine, like nothing but I want him to succeed in every way possible. Like such a
and
wonderful
we told him
person.
as much. We are rooting for you, and we're behind you all the way, man. So we hope all of you Star Wars fans, or even just music fans, because we talk about other stuff as well with him, mostly Skeleton Crew. Check that out Thursday. Mick Giacchino, he was so generous. We did a little over an hour with him, just like Christopher Ford, showrunner and creator of Skeleton Crew. So we thank them both for the time. They are awesome. They're amazing, and maybe one day they'll be on Nerdy and Nice with us talking about some of their other cool projects. But yeah, that's it. So I did the plugs. We got trbpodcast.com for our merch. And I might start doing some writing there soon. I would like to get start writing before we go to Celebration Japan, just to say, like, I get started getting that going again. What else, Lacey? Our socials. What are our socials for Nerdy and Nice?
Nerdy and Nice Pod on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, etc. Make sure to follow us there. We're starting to get more active on there. We've probably been more active, I think, on TRB than Nerdy and Nice, but it's just like, it is what it is. It's social media. But that being said, thank you to everyone that's been supporting the pod, that's been supporting TRB, especially our recent interview with Christopher Ford. Your compliments and support there has meant so much to us.
Yes, thank you.
It truly means a lot. But yeah, make sure to follow us there. And then also you can follow me at Lacey Gilleran on all platforms, and TikTok's back again. So at it's Lacey Gilleran there.
Yeah.
And yeah, be careful on the interwebs, because there's a lot of Nosferatu clips going around.
Man, oh man.
And they catch you off guard.
Yeah. For me, Johnny Hoey on Blue Sky, and still on X a little bit. And then, yeah, TRB podcasts for the Resistance broadcast, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We're doing Office Space next.
Oh,
A
we
special-
haven't forgotten about the Squid Game contest. It's happening, and I promise, this is a promise from me, Lacey. We will announce the winner next episode.
All right. We need those reviews. So you're doing #nerdy for Squid Game, and you're taking a screenshot of your review of us, whether that's Spotify or Apple, and you're posting it on your social media using that hashtag.
Any channel.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah. And we will find it, and we will enter you, and you will win red light, green light, among other things. But we have to also say a special thank you to our patrons, patreon.com/TRB podcasts. You keep the light on in the base. Thank you so much for all your support. Special shout out to the movie star generals, Carmelo, John RISI, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Danny, Mike Rumore, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, who just chimed in on our interview with Chris Ford. He's like, I'm sorry I haven't been around, but I loved it. I'm like, Dave, we love you, Dave. It's all right, buddy. We hope you're doing well. Good to hear from you, man. Colin Cormier, Stephen Garrow, Sachi, and Darth Snips. And the Silver Screen Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shah, Kendall Gelner, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and THEFORTWORTHIAN. And however you support us, thank you all so much. It means a great deal to us. We'll be back with you next Monday with another episode of Nerdy and Nice and TRB this Thursday with Mick Giacchino. A lot more coming your way from us in the future. But we have a great week. If you're in the Northeast, stay warm. If you're in the LA area, stay safe. Hope everything's all right. And until next time, see you around, kids.